Greetings, fellow gardeners. In today's brief gardening tip, I'd like to discuss a common error often made by novice tomato growers, unknowingly jeopardizing their tomato harvest. Tomato plants can be categorized into two main types, indeterminate and determinate. Although their fruits may appear identical, their growth patterns differ significantly. Determining whether a tomato plant is indeterminate or determinate is crucial, and this information is typically found on seed packets or clearly stated when ordering online. It's important to note that the majority of tomato varieties are indeterminate. Therefore, when watching pruning tutorials, make sure they are specific to indeterminate tomatoes. Otherwise, you may encounter a significant problem. Indeterminate tomato plants are vigorous vines that continue to grow indefinitely unless affected by pests, diseases, or adverse weather conditions such as frost. They tend to produce new shoots or suckers between the leaves and stems, which can take over and dominate the plant if not managed properly. Pruning tutorials for indeterminate tomatoes often emphasize removing most suckers to control growth, allowing one or two main stems to thrive. This single-stem approach has become popular for maximizing airflow and managing the growth of indeterminate tomato plants in limited spaces. However, it's important to note that this pruning technique should only be applied to indeterminate varieties. Using the same method on determinate tomatoes would have disastrous consequences for your harvest. Determinate tomato plants grow as bushy plants with a predetermined maximum height, typically ranging from 2 to 4 feet. Treating determinate tomatoes like indeterminate ones by removing suckers would inhibit flower production and ultimately fruit formation. In fact, determinate tomatoes should generally be pruned minimally. The only acceptable pruning for determinate tomatoes is removing leaves below the first flower cluster. Once the plant starts flowering, no additional leaves should be removed. The only other exception for removing foliage from determinate tomatoes is if the plant is affected by disease, but this is typically not a major concern, as determinate varieties naturally decline after fruit ripening. It's crucial to be aware of these distinctions, especially when growing a mix of indeterminate, determinate, and dwarf tomato varieties. Treating all types the same could lead to disappointing outcomes. So, if you're new to tomato gardening, keep these distinctions in mind to ensure a bountiful harvest. That concludes today's concise gardening tip. If you're new here, consider subscribing and enabling notifications for future videos.